Good afternoon, and welcome to another breaking episode of Diatribes from the voice of Doom. Now here's your brazen and brackish host, voice of Doom. Hello. I'm going to do a quickie diatribe because I don't have much time. But I want to continue with what I was talking about the media and my experience with it, my impressions. I did radio talk shows last episode. Now I'm going to move into TV, but before I do that, I was going to do a thing about, little items, nuggets and niblets of news that I wanted to cover because I was thinking about things that kind of were put by the wayside and ignored by the media, and other things that I forgot to say, but I was interested in the hammering. About 4 days ago, I looked it up to see what kind of news there was, and it was very hard to find anything current about the Paul Pelosi matter. The only thing I found out was that the media was mad about not getting the video footage they had of the incident, and the judge finally ordered, I think a couple days ago, that the footage be released. Now, I did notice one thing is that this DPP has been held without bail in San Francisco, the most liberal city in the world, and that his next court date is February 23rd, where they will set a trial date. So obviously they want to push this thing out as far as possible. They are slow walking it. But this morning I did turn on the computer and I did see the footage. They released it in due haste, which is strange. And I will delve into that matter a little more deeply later. But in a nutshell, I think they want to keep this guy on ice and somehow make this quietly go away, because even though the video footage looks rather innocuous as far as what was going on, I don't think they want to have a trial, and I think they will do almost anything to either get this guy to plead guilty to something minor, or he will go away one way or the other, because it looked like it was personal to me, and it looked like there was an encampment outside of Pelosi's house where people were sleeping on couches or something. So who knows what's going on in that city? It's an absolute mess. But if I was the Speaker of the House with $100 million in my back pocket, I would not want people sleeping in my front door. So I don't know what's happening with that. But we'll keep on that. We'll see what happens. I wanted to also add a coda to my announcement of the Abrams tanks and the other tanks being sent to Ukraine. And apparently it's going to take a year to get the tanks there. So I really don't know how long they expect this so-called war to last. But it's like, well, you'll be fighting for a year, so you'll get the tanks in a year. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. But I think things will come to a head long before those tanks arrive in the Ukraine. And now I will go on. I forgot a couple of things about talk radio, things that kind of bug me. Besides the fact that all the radio hosts think they're the best, they all try to copy Rush, and they all hate each other. Very rarely do they ally themselves or talk amongst themselves, because they always think that they are the best, and so they don't want to interact, with some exceptions. Now, they always think they're right. One thing I've never heard on talk radio, never once, and I've listened to it since 1992, I've never heard a radio host say, "Oh, you might have a point, I think I changed my mind." They never change their mind. Once they make an opinion, they stick to it. They will not waver, they will not deviate. And I'm talking about even the best of them. Some people might change their whole political stance, like Tammy Bruce, but they do not ever admit that someone else might be right and they might be wrong. Never will happen. All right, let's move on to television. I used to see news shows when I was 6 or 7 years old, between cartoons, and Meet the Press was probably the main news show. Besides the 6 o'clock evening news, it would be on the three major channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC. So I would sometimes watch Meet the Press when I was young for about 5 minutes, and it was boring. I didn't understand what they were saying, and it was very stark and primitive and minimalist. They were sitting on a stage with a curtain behind them. They were sitting as a panel, 3 press guys. They all had glasses on, and they all talked like they were very smart. And they'd be interviewing the Secretary of Agriculture or the Assistant Secretary to the Department of the Interior. So they were very boring. And they had Face the Nation. Never watched it. It was not something a 6-year-old or 7-year-old really wanted to see. Now, as I got older, I would watch the news, and sometimes I'd be forced to watch the news because we actually studied current events in elementary school. We didn't study how to change your gender, or we didn't have lectures on sex toys and accessories. In 4th grade, we were told, watch the news, and sometimes we'd have to cut out things from the paper and do current events reports, and I would report on the Vietnam War and not know what the heck I was talking about. So there were news people in the 60s and 70s and up to the early 80s who everybody trusted. Uncle Walter Cronkite. Everyone trusted him because he just had that face and demeanor that said, "You can trust me." Didn't find out until after he left the air that he was a Clintonite. He didn't wear his politics on his sleeve. And he didn't wear his emotions. I mean, he would wear his emotions on his sleeve. He broke down when Kennedy was shot. I never saw that. I was too young. John F. He was very excited and couldn't help hiding it when the first person walked on the moon, Neil. So, news was exciting then, and the news people were trustworthy. I remember Huntley and Brinkley. Dun dun, dun dun, bum bum, dun dun. Beethoven. Didn't know it at the time, but it was a cool intro. And they'd be like, back to you, Chet. And Chet would talk, and then, David, back to you. And they go back and forth with the news. And it was the same stuff. Most of the news was about Vietnam, and the rest of the news was about riots about Vietnam. We've gotten more in depth with the news since we have 500,000 news channels, including mine. And so there's a lot more coverage of a lot more things. They didn't really talk about the budget deficit back in 1968. Oh, we're in debt, $2 trillion, it's a catastrophe. Okay. So let's go on with some more current stuff. I will say that some people get on my nerves. I might agree with a lot of what they say, but just their whole attitude just irritated me. Bill O'Reilly. Just pompous, thinks he knows everything. The folks, I gotta be here for the folks. Condescending, patronizing. I didn't like his thing about Christmas. If I go to a store and it doesn't say Merry Christmas on the banner, I won't shop there. It's like, yeah, you really know what Christmas is all about. There's been a lot of people on television. O'Reilly coincidentally did pair up with what's his name? The Blaze, Glenn Beck. And I love Glenn Beck. I love him better on TV because he's hilarious. He's really funny. He was really funny on TV because he'd do parodies of politicians and the intelligentsia. And he just had a good delivery. I don't think he's quite as good on the radio. But I started watching the news diligently when Clinton was in trouble because everybody was ganging up on him. And I did watch MSNBC back in those days because it wasn't quite as ridiculous as it is now. They had a guy named Chris Matthews doing hardball, and for some reason Matthews, a staunch Democrat, just hated Clinton and lambasted him, so I enjoyed watching his show. And there were other idiots on there. I think Olbermann was on there. He's still around on some ridiculous channel. And they all were anti-Clinton, so I watched CNBC and MSNBC. And then that went by the wayside, and I probably just watched Fox after that. Now, who do I like and don't like on Fox? Well, I like most of them. I like Judge Jeanine. I like Gutfeld. I like Jesse Waters. I like, who else is on there? I mean, Neil's okay. Hannity, I can live without. I like Bongino. They're all kind of in the same boat. Let's talk about people I really don't like. Okay, Jessica Tarloff is the liberal that's on the 5. And I don't mind her too much. She just has to talk for her side, and she will never deviate. She will always give Petri dish the benefit of the doubt and give the Democrats the benefit of the doubt. But she's not the worst of them. Then we have another person I could do without. Not just because I don't agree with him, but he claims to be a Republican, and he's about as liberal as they come. His name is, what the hell is his name? Geraldo. He's one of those one-name people. I used to watch him back in the 70s when he was a long-haired hippie, and I kind of agreed with everything he was saying, and he was kind of cool. And he kind of started that whole audience news talk kind of format. So he was a groundbreaker. But he's still a liberal. He might say he's a classical liberal, but his opinions kind of get on my nerves because he always has to give the corruptees the benefit of the doubt, and I do not give them the benefit. I want them to have no benefits. And I really don't like Juan Williams, because not only is he the biggest liberal idiot that ever was put on television, but his arguments are stupid. We're talking about the documents and how Petri dish is just so irresponsible, and his response is, "Oh, come on. That's your argument? All right." That's how he argues. He just says some phrase that makes it sound like you're just full of nonsense. Well, we're seeing it with our own eyes. City's burning down in 2020, and they're saying, these rioters are out of control. And, oh, come on. All right. One guy I admire, I don't know if it's because he's someone who just is an actor who will be whoever we want him, people want him to be, is Leo Terrell. Couldn't stand him on the radio. He was always defending O.J. Simpson. Oh, he's been framed. Total liberal. Total moron. Couldn't stand him. He would always argue with Larry Elder. And then Petrie opened his big fat mouth and said, if you are black, if you vote for me, or no, what did he say? If you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. And that rankled a lot of people. And Leo went the other way big time. He went to the red, and he started wearing MAGA hats, and that was totally anathema to everything he stood for. So I admire him, because he's willing to change. He's willing to change his mind, which you'll never see with most of these news people. So it's long already, and it was probably one of the most boring ones I ever did, but I just wanted to finish that all up. I could have said more. Little coda on the radio people. I would watch these things, Art Bell, these people that are into the supernatural, and they believed in everything, and there's only one thing worse than believing in nothing, and that's believing in everything. Yeah, I believe in extraterrestrials, I believe in channeling and transporting your body from here to there, and he'd get people on his show, and people after that, George Norrie and people like that, didn't like them because they always thought they were special. I do body transportation. I can remove myself from my body and I can go on the other side of the planet and see what's going on. And the guy eats it up. Oh, I am 99% right. I am a clairvoyant. I'm 99% right, and I predict that there's going to be a major earthquake somewhere in the earth. Okay. So I'd watch that once in a while when I was traveling because nothing else was on. And I didn't care for all that because I just don't like people that think they're special, even though I think I'm special. I'm a hypocrite that way. But if you think you have special powers, you know what I mean? I know the meaning of everything. So that's the last thing I'll say on the media for now. We're going to get back into the news next time. And I have no idea what I'm going to talk about because I'll just wait until I get home from work and see which disasters have befallen us. And then I'll report to you on that. So thanks for listening, and thanks, Nick, for your comments, and thank you for watching, everybody. And good night and good news, as Ted Baxter once said. Alrighty, bye.